Okay, so I'll do a quick introduction. We'll go into the demonstration and discussion with Larry. Larry will lead that, and I'll have some questions for him as we go through that. And then at the end, we've got some time for questions from the audience as well. Okay. Now, if you're viewing this as a recorded session afterwards, there is a slide right towards the end with my email address, and you can shoot us an email if you've got a question there that we haven't covered today, or if you've got something that you want answers for, and either myself or Larry will be able to help you with that. Okay, so this session is being recorded, and look, I'd like to emphasize that the tech demo is all about a technical deep dive into a product. It's not meant to be a sales pitch. Okay. So my background is 10 years as a Salesforce administrator, and I know what a pain it can be for salespeople to take control of the presentation and want to show you what they want you to show you. So we're trying to turn the tables a bit here and say, show it to us what it looks like from our admin point of view. You know, show us the features that we as admins will like and that we can go and deploy to our end users. Don't drill us with a sales pitch, because that's not the kind of thing that we enjoy. Now, Express Console is a native Salesforce app, okay, which means it's built on the platform. Okay, so it's not some third-party external thing that you have to have access to your Salesforce environment. No, it's built with Apex and Lightning Web Components, and it lives inside you install it and it lives inside your Salesforce org. Okay, that way it takes advantage of all of the features of Salesforce and is contained within your org as well. Now, it's a product of a company called Leaping Fox Software, which Larry owns, and it's under continuous development. And we were just talking a few minutes ago about how quickly Larry, because he's a small, very agile team, you know, Leaping Fox indicates that it's quick and agile, and he can get stuff done really fast. Now, any questions that you have, you can email them to me or you can pop them in the chat and we will attend to those at the end of the presentation. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to fit them in as we're going through, but we will definitely answer any questions that are in the chat at the end. If you've got a question that you don't want to pop in the chat or you think of later, just take a note of my email address and you can send it over to me. And I guarantee that Larry or myself will respond to you within 24 hours with an answer. Okay. Now, the problem that we're looking at solving with Express Console is low Salesforce adoption. And some of the causes of this, or some of the things that this causes, are reduced sales productivity. And I'm sure you've all heard salespeople telling you, you know, doing data entry is not my job. I'm a salesperson, you know. I want to get out there in the field. I want to get out, get on the phone, get out in the coffee shops, get out wherever it is and sell the product, you know, sitting back on the laptop, doing your work, doing your admin work is not my job, right? We get a lot of that sort of attitude from sales reps because it reduces their overall productivity. And obviously we're measuring that in sales and close won opportunities. So anything that we can do to improve that productivity is a huge bonus. On the other side, their managers don't have enough deal data to effectively coach them into becoming better sales reps. Okay, so there's not enough information about the deal. You know, where are the emails and the calls and the tasks that they're recording that shows the activity around dealing with this particular contact or, you know, progressing this particular opportunity. If we don't have that data, then how can a sales rep be coached through that process of improving the way they progress an opportunity? And that all adds up to a poor return on investment in Salesforce. Okay. So this is the key problem that we're trying to address: low Salesforce adoption, particularly in Sales Cloud. Now, the Express console is built with Lightning components, Lightning Web components. Okay, so this is the new generation. It's the first generation of web-based user interface was Aura, but this is the new generation. So it's all built in Lightning Web components, which are much faster, and it's the new technology that Salesforce is using. So if you've been looking at some of the things that they've been doing for us admins, they've been moving home pages and rebuilding them from Aura to Lightning Web components so that we can do things like have dynamic forms on objects and have dynamic actions and other dynamic features, dynamic headers in the pages and so forth. So it's built with the newest technology. 50% fewer clicks as we're navigating around, and you'll see that as Larry demonstrates in just a couple of minutes. Salespeople actually love it because it really addresses the issues that they have. The managers like it because it gives them more data for their coaching, because it's easier to add that meeting data or to add that call. And of course, as a result of this, we get that improved return on investment. Okay, so a company that installs Salesforce has a pretty big investment in that. So you've got not only the license costs, but you've also got, people who run the Salesforce, maybe admins, maybe some developers on your team. So overall, it can be a big investment, and anything that we can do to improve that is a significant benefit to the company. And the other key thing to remember is this is a native Salesforce app, so you can find it on the App Exchange. Okay, now Larry's going to take over in just a minute and is going to cover off in the demonstration these 7 things. Well, in fact, there's 6, and number 7 is the lightning fast performance that you will see throughout the presentation. Okay. So we're going to demonstrate cascading pop-ups, the smart edit mode, an integrated to-do list, the drag and drop, how we enable right-click and what we can do with that, and how easily it is to create a task from text. Now, I'll leave it to Larry to explain a little bit about consoles. You may have seen a service console in Salesforce before. This is quite different to that. And best I'll leave it to Larry. So I'll stop sharing my screen here and I'll ask Larry to share his now and take it over with you, Larry, and let's have a look at the Express console.
All right, sounds good. All right, can you see this is actually the sales console, not my product, but the sales version of the Salesforce console. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay. Well, this might be a good place to start because this is standard Lightning, and I just by way of a little bit of background, I've been using Salesforce since 2011, Lightning since probably for the last 7 or 8 years. Personally, I bounced off Lightning 6, 7 times. I just reverted to Classic. It was faster and easier. And admittedly, I knew it better. But it took me a long time to get myself to use Lightning because it was slower and clunkier, frankly. So one of the things that I've looked at is the sales console. And this is sort of Salesforce's take on what a console for a salesperson might look like. And they've got the usual arrangement where you've got multiple components here on a single screen. But they've also designed it to be, in my opinion, compacted down onto a notepad, because there's just all sorts of wasted space here, just a lot of blank white space. You can only see 7 activities here. You have to toggle back and forth. You can only look at details or activity. And the stage history is something you can't tell what happened from version to version. So contrast this sort of an approach, and also where you have you they've sort of made it worse with the proliferation of tabs. They allow you to do all sorts of tabs, but every time you click on something here, you get another tab up, and you end up with two tabs where you're trying to figure out where am I? Was I looking at it on this? Was I looking at this? And it's the usual tab problem with Salesforce. So when I designed the Express console, when Lightning Web Components came along, the whole idea was to simplify it, strip it down to its basics, and really do what I like to say in a grand fashion, Pareto optimization on it, or optimality, which is the 80-20 rule. There's 20% of the functionality that people use 80% of the time. So rather than the sort of a kludgy approach, I just took a more simplified approach. It shows up as a tab here. It doesn't make any of the other tabs go away. You've still got, it interoperates very nicely with the various different tabs that are out there, including the opportunity tab. So it shows up as just another tab. It's fully integrated, stores all the data in right in Salesforce. But where it gets different is I take a basic approach here of saying it's two panels. You have a nice list on the left of all your deals, depending on what time frame you're looking for. They're sortable as you might expect. That's not hard to do. But Lightning Web Components lets us do some kind of interesting things that you can't really do in Lightning. Like say, with Edge Emergency Generator down here at the bottom, I know I'm going to be working on that today. I'm going to peg that to the top. So no matter how I sort after then, that's going to be pegged to the top. And the basic approach here is two panels. Click on this side, and you get the details on the other side. And as maybe just a quick comparison with that, the sales console that you saw earlier, we've got a stage history here where you have a slight highlight behind whatever the change was for each one of the times that the stages were changed, or the amount was changed, or the close date. So this gives you a much more effective history. And that's what I've tried to do throughout the product, is take the areas in Lightning that are problematic and make them a lot easier to use here. So salespeople will actually use them.
Can I just stop you there, Larry? So that stage history, not only have we listed what's changed, but we've actually highlighted it as well. So in that 11,
Yeah.
18, that first listing there, so it's the probability of 35% that's got that gray shading behind it, showing us that that's what changed.
Yes. Yep.
And then
So
in
you
the next line below it, it's the 20,000 amount that's changed. Yeah, that's really cool. Like, how simple is that to do? And yet Salesforce don't do that. They just provide that list of history changes, and we've got to sort of somehow magically analyze and work out which one's changed.
Yeah, I'm just trying to take literally a more express way of displaying data like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
So do you want to jump into the list there, Darren?
Yeah. So the cascading pop-ups, I'm fascinated by that. What's a cascading pop-up, Larry?
Yeah, so one of the most painful things for me as a Salesforce user, and I've been selling with it for the last 12, 13 years, was the fact that every time you click on something, it takes you off to another screen. And there's a response time cycle. And if your system's, a little bit on the slow side, it can be 3, 4, 5 seconds. And then it's a couple seconds to get back to where you were. So with the Express console is predicated on the notion of pop-ups, and that works for a deal. So if I hover on a deal very quickly, I get a pop-up in edit mode here that shows all those key criteria. Now that works also deeper here into the pipeline view. So everybody's seen a grid view like this. It's not that hard to do, but what Web Components has let us do is to say, oh, wouldn't it be interesting to see the last, I don't know, 6, 8, up to 10 activities for a given opportunity right there on the forecast, on the pipeline screen. And then within those, to investigate them rather than going out someplace else, wouldn't it be nice to just be able to jump into it? And if you're wondering about Edna there, oh yeah, she's the VP of technology and yeah, Edge Communications, where was that? Yeah, that was in Austin. So throughout the system here, anything in blue, any object level thing in blue is either clickable as it would be with the email address or is hoverable to get a greater level of detail. And then if you want to just see the whole object on the right side of the screen, you hit expand.
Cool. So any of those links back on the left-hand side there, we can just, so you're not clicking on those, Larry, you're just hovering over it.
That's a
Oh,
hover.
okay. Yeah.
And it
And it
works
just
over
pop.
here as well.
And can I set the time delay for that hover? Like some people will be a bit faster or slower.
Yeah. So we've got some nice uh sorry, it's in here in preferences. You can set a delay on that hover. If they're popping up a little too fast for you, you can slow it down to as little as 2 seconds, or you can speed it up to a half second.
Oh, cool.
So totally your choice.
Larry, back to that display where we had the history, because we just had a question pop up. What if there are multiple changes? So you were showing the history.
Oh yeah, yep. I think you'll get
You'll get
you'll get
multiple entries, won't you?
yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
this is
Yeah, like here's
stage.
an
Yeah, so this is stage history. It's not opportunity history. So this is history
well,
of the
it's the stages.
stage.
It's the
Yeah,
stages of the opportunity. And actually, that's interesting. It's almost a misnomer because it's not just stages. Because it's you got the stage down this side, but I thought that the relevant information here, and you can also see who made the change.
yeah.
So everything basically from up here is reflected over there.
Okay, but as the question was, if there were multiple changes, then I would expect multiple lines in here. Is that the answer?
Multiple highlighted, so you can see in this one.
Oh, there were
Uh,
two things changed there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probability and close change. So yeah,
Okay.
rather than getting, it's not so much transaction based where you want to see a history. I mean, you can always pull that out of Salesforce if you want to, but
Yeah.
in this case, it was on this date, and you can assume that this was done simultaneously. Both the probability and the close were changed.
And the stage name as well. Yeah.
And the stage.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, cool. All right. So the next feature that I've got on the list there, Larry, was that smart edit mode. I'm interested in what that means.
Yes, another pain that I encountered, like a lot of people in Salesforce, is that when you want to change a number, you've got to get to it first, and then you've got to go into edit mode. So it's two, executions, two hits of the enter key and response cycles. So all of the pop-ups and actually much of the app is built in edit mode. So you see, I haven't clicked on anything here. You can see the cursor up there at the top. I can just start typing. It's like Word or like Excel, any of the other apps that are delivered in edit mode. And it just makes it much faster and easier to change things because half the time you're looking up a piece of information and the other half you're changing it. And there's smart tabbing so that you might have seen as soon as, let me just cancel out of that and I'll do it again. And I won't save it. So look down here at the cancel and save keys. As soon as I start typing up here, it defaults to the save key. So it's
Oh,
smart enough to know that, oh, there's been some information there changed. And then you skip right into comments and, you can type in there. And then it jumps over all instead of cycling through fields that have already been filled in, it jumps straight to the save.
so that jump to save, that was based on the tab key, was it?
Yes. Because it knew that these four fields had already been filled in, it skipped over them and just said, okay, you've made a change, go right to save.
Right. Okay. Where Salesforce would take you to each one of those individual fields, and if they had help, it would take you to the help on each one of
Yeah.
them, and you'd be hitting like 10 tabs before you got down to the save option. Wow.
Yeah, nobody uses tabbing and or very rarely because it's too pedantic. It's such a pain. People operate with the mouse, and the problem is that slows you down because you're typing, then you're going to the mouse, and you're typing, then you're going to the mouse, and you go back and forth, and it's half as productive as it could be.
Larry, there's a question there from Mary, just asking whether or not you've got control over which fields are displayed here in this pop-up. Where is that layout coming from?
Not just yet. So this is a fixed format at this point. We haven't gotten into configurability
Right.
where, and this is let me put safe harbor up here in invisible quotes. If we're talking futures. What my plan is there's an additional information section here that is going to become configurable. So if you want to see some extra fields there, you can see it's also over here. Each one of the objects has got an additional information. And the first thing that will happen in terms of configurability for other fields is that this will become configurable. So you can decide which fields are in here. But one thing I would suggest for the immediate term is that any one of these objects has got a little icon up here, a lightning icon, where it will take you straight out to your default page layout for that object very quickly. So if there's a field that I haven't anticipated that you want to update someplace, just jump to that, and I'll watch how fast you can get back to the Express console. I will hit enter now, or actually hit the Express console because this app is Lightning Web Components. It uses HTML5, which the most significant aspect of which is much of the code runs right in the browser, which is very cool. I mean, apps are really going to start speeding up because the code is running here. It's just going for data.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons Express Console is so much faster than regular Lightning.
The other thing I like too, Larry, is that we returned exactly to where we were at before as well in the console. So all
Yeah.
of those tabs and everything where we are took us straight back there instead of back to some home page. Yeah, that
Yeah,
is.
absolutely. That was one of my, this is really based on a pain list of my 7 or 8 years of using Lightning. There's nothing worse than getting something set up or getting to a certain context on a screen, jumping out and coming back and seeing it's gone back to the beginning. So the Express Console maintains your context. Wherever you were, it comes back to exactly where you were.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Okay, so the next one on the list is the integrated to-do list. What's that all about, Larry?
Yeah. So you see this little button up here in the upper right-hand corner. You click on that, and what this shows you is all of your tasks and activities and events that have today's date on it. And that's why it's called today and not to do. I'll show you a follow-on in a second that shows a broader sense of all of the activities, all the tasks. But my idea here was just to build a very quick and easy way of seeing, for a sales rep, who do I have to call? What else do I have to do? And what's on my calendar? And of course, you need your calendar integrated with Salesforce for this to show up. But it's not, I mean, my own personal experience is it wasn't that hard to set up. And it is really handy because right here in just a single little cut or panel, we should say, is you've got everything you've got to do for that day. And I'll show you real quickly. One of the things that Lightning Web Components lets you do is regular Lightning can't distinguish between a call task and a regular task. They're just all tasks. Salespeople love to be able to say, listen, I'm going to spend an hour tomorrow morning just making some calls and I'm going to line some calls up, right? But there's no way you can pick out of a list what's a call and what's a regular task. With Lightning Web Components, we can say, well, just make the first word of the subject of a task the word call, and it'll show up in the list right here in the call section of this list. And it'll strip off that first word because that'd be redundant. Call John, call Stella, call Lauren, right? That'd be dull. So this is something you just can't do in regular Salesforce is distinguish between what are calls and what are regular tasks.
And that's such a simple yet very effective little tweak, isn't it? That
Yeah,
just saves that amount of time and allows you to categorize those in there as calls. That's really cool.
well, it makes it part of the idea here is to make to-dos easy enough so that reps will actually put them into the system.
Yeah.
Because if they do, management has literally an order of magnitude more information to look at in a deal and coach them. Instead of just saying, tell me what's going on with X, Y, and Z deal, they can say, why aren't you calling Rose over here before you're finding out the delivery schedule? Or, and, and they say, well, she wants to know the delivery schedule. Okay, that's why. So just a, you got an iceberg here. You get underwater in terms of all the details of what's going on in a deal if you've got the reps putting at least some of their tasks in. And what I suggest is start with the next step. That's a good thing because next steps tend to not be trivial little actions. They're a step that it might take, follow up with somebody, which means I got to get them on the phone again, right? So you might, with calling Rose here, for example, I use hash marks for the number of times I've left a message, because that's the way it happens. And you don't want to necessarily clog your whole task timeline up with left a message, left a message, left a message, right? You can put it here, and each time you leave a message, you got a nice little calendar thing that says left message again, please, right? And then you jump right to save, and it's done. So what I've tried to do is make this easy enough. And let me stop right here and see if there's any questions. I haven't really told, described how the today list works, but do we
There
have
was,
any questions at this point?
yeah, we had another question there from Mary, just confirming that that previous pop-up screen at the moment, those fields are fixed. And I think that's the
Yeah.
question that she's asking. Yeah. Yeah. So at the moment they are, Mary. Yes. Yes. But,
Yeah. The idea is to
Larry,
make this section configurable.
yeah. Yeah. Um, Larry, one of the things that I can recall when I was working in an organization with a worldwide sales team, it was really hard for I think it was our head of revenue to sometimes get his head around all the opportunities because, the team that was working on it was in another time zone and he might have been looking at it when these guys were asleep and so on. And we very much had the story that the opportunity has to tell the whole story. You should be able to look at the
Yeah.
opportunity at 3 o'clock in the morning when the sales rep's in bed. And as the, excuse me, as the sales manager, you should be able to see the whole story of what's going on with the opportunity. So if those calls and tasks and those events are not there and there's no, next step and there's no notes and there's no emails and stuff like that, then how can you get that whole story? So anything that we can do to make documenting that story even better, make it easier for them, completes that story about the opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. And what I'm shooting for here, I mean, it's never going to be easier in a system to put a to-do in than to jot it down on a piece of paper. But from that point on, it's harder on the paper because instead of being able to say, oh, I want to call John about delivery. If I've got telephony set up, I just click on this number.
Yeah,
If I want to email John,
bang,
I
there it
can do
is.
it really quickly. So I'm all
Yeah,
right here. So from that point, and I've tried to make it as easy as possible to put a task onto the system. So if you've got like over here with the Edge Generator deal, you hit the plus sign and you can log a call, new task, or new event. So if I throw a new task on there, you notice it's already related to that opportunity. So I've tried to make, a bunch of little shortcuts in here just to make it easier because I know from my own experience in Lightning, it's such a pain because you can't automatically relate something to an opportunity. The default is the account, which
right.
you would
Yeah,
inherit if you put the person in, it's going to inherit that anyway. So that doesn't really do you any good. So this is smart enough to say, oh, if you click on this deal, I know it's related to that deal and just make
yeah,
it really quick to put the task in the first place. And then the to-do list is, it's pretty simple. You want to prioritize things. You ever seen drag and drop before in Salesforce? You just say, what do I want to do first, right? It's call Stella there. If I've called Stella and I had a good conversation, I just check it, it disappears. If I think, I don't really need to call John about delivery today, I hit the minus sign. It puts tomorrow's date on it and pushes it off till tomorrow. And you also have an option for all of your to-dos to roll from one day to another. So you can decide whether you want to start fresh tomorrow morning or you want to make sure that you do the things that you didn't get around to doing yesterday.
So how did we do that? So those things that we didn't get done, how do we roll them over?
Yeah, so it's the little minus sign over here.
Oh, okay.
What that effectively does is it puts tomorrow's date on it.
Right.
And you can,
Okay.
if you say, geez, I really don't have to do that this week, let me push that off to next week. That's easy enough to do as well.
Yeah.
But what I've tried to do is make single clicks or hovers prevalent throughout the system to make it just as easy as possible for people to do things.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. And that up next to completed action or show completed actions. Did you explain that one, Larry? Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, you want to get a sense of everything you've accomplished during the day, you just hit, show completed actions. So
Okay.
you can toggle very quickly back and forth between what's your net and what does your day look like. And towards the end of the day, sometimes there's a little psychic benefit to seeing 25 little check marks there. It's like,
Oh,
wow, I really got something done today.
absolutely there is for me. Yeah, yeah. And look, I've even been guilty of writing things on the list just so that I can get the pleasure of crossing it off.
I remember reading at some point that the mark of a real list maker
Yeah.
is writing something down just so you can check it off. I do the same thing.
Oh well, there you go. I'm a real list maker then. What's that little icon next to that checkbox then, Larry?
Oh yeah. So now this is all today's stuff, right? But you might want to take a broader look at what are all the activities. So I actually there's another view here called the activity view that you can get to directly just by hitting that. And this is literally all of the activities again for, whatever time frame you want. And I default to this quarter because that's the one that everybody's always concerned about, but it lets you click on any activity and then you get a much expanded view of that activity again in edit mode. So you see where the cursor is,
Yeah.
and you can flip through. And it's smart enough to instead of putting the cursor at the beginning of the comments, it puts it one space after whatever text is already in there.
Which
And,
is
so you,
exactly where you want it if you're going to add a new comment, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
yep, yep,
And I see that the save button's already highlighted.
yep. And then you notice I jumped, and there is circular tabbing here in case you miss, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I went from where I was, it skipped all those ones that were already filled out and then jumped down to save.
Yeah. That's
And
really smart, that tabbing, isn't it?
yeah, it's always bothered me in actually almost all systems are do not use smart tabbing. They think for some
No.
reason you've got to go through every single one in case you're a data entry operator.
Yeah,
Now,
or they don't get the order right as well when you
yeah,
rearrange fields on the page. Yeah.
and they
Um,
go to the information. It's two tabs for each thing because there's a lot of
yeah.
times information, but which is dumb.
Larry,
So now this,
while we've got that
yeah, 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 good.
big list view on the left there,
Uh-huh.
can we do drag and drop on that list as well?
Yeah, so this goes by the date. So
Right.
that it's the way you would narrow that down is I put a very fast search and it just searches on the data that's showing here. It doesn't go into like the contents of the or the comments or anything. So if I want to see where all my sorry if I can spell it right, everything with Edna, oh, it's right there. Pops up really quick. Edge, boom, pops up really quick. So I've got a real fast, search there, even for partial words. So if you got 100 items on this, goes on for a couple of pages, it's easy to narrow it down. And you also have a number of filters where you can say, hey, I want to look at everything's completed here. I got a couple of things done the last few days. But generally speaking, you want to take a look at what's in progress or maybe just not, what's not started. Oh,
Yeah.
geez, a call.
Yeah.
And this is a good example because in trying to make this easier than a piece of paper, in a busy day, you might just throw a task in there that says call Bob, and I haven't got time to fill it out, right? And then at the end of the day, you come back to Bob and say, oh, okay, let's flesh this out a little bit so it makes some sense to me tomorrow. And this is kind of nice. And this is my end of the day routine, right? Call Bob. Let's see, the contact. So I get that is just Bob Levy. And one thing you notice there, and jumps to the comments, and then related to. Now, watch as I type this in. Let's say we're going to relate this to Edge. and the emergency generator is the one that I want to select, I don't have to arrow down throughout the Express console. If the top choice is the one you want, you just hit enter, and it both takes that option, whatever the one is was at the top of the list, and tabs you to the next step. So again, I'm trying to cut out keystrokes here wherever I can and make things just that much easier and faster to do. And then you got save. You can save that easily, and boom, we're all done.
Nice, nice one. I think you did show the drag and drop, Larry, didn't you, when we were looking at the tasks there? I think you were showing us how we could drag and drop and move them around.
Oh yeah, and actually, you know what? I let me go back to in progress there, because the one place on this screen you can drag and drop is if I've got something that's it's in progress, but everything in red is overdue, right? So, oh geez, I forgot to find out the delivery schedule. I can drag that up onto the today list and just add it that quickly.
Oh,
So
wow.
where the drag and drop works here within the activity view is if I want to add something to the to-do list or the
So,
today list.
so what it's done there is it's updated that the date of that task. Is that what just
Yes,
happened? Yeah,
that's how it does it. It's all based on the date.
cool,
So anything that with today's date shows up on the today list.
cool.
Everything that isn't a task or a task actually shows up on the activity view.
All right, I'm keeping my eye on the clock, Larry. Let's have a look at, so we did drag and drop. Let's have a look at enable right click. What does that do for us?
Yeah, so there's a couple places. I mean, if you've used Excel extensively over the last 15 years, you might have gotten used to a little bit of right clicking. So what I've done in that is two major things. One, the right click, you can add something to today. So if you're maybe a little lazy, you don't want to do the drag all the way over there to the other side of the screen, you can just hit add to today and it'll do that for you. The other thing is, and this is let me show the opportunity here at the same time, is the other thing is mark as next. So most sales methodologies out there use the next step. Like each deal has got to have the next step assigned to it, right? Um, and it's one of the biggest anomalies for me that exists in Salesforce because by definition, the next step is an activity. But in Salesforce, it's a field. And the reps just have to fill it in, right? To keep all their opportunities up to date. And I thought, wouldn't it be novel if you could actually assign a real task within the system as the next? And you see, find out delivery schedule ASAP is the next step because that's been highlighted here. So if I say, you know what I really want to do is call rows and have that as the next step, it actually updates the back end so that it's like it goes in and fills in that field for you
Oh,
and
wow.
allows you to,
So that live did that live update just then in that record. Yeah.
yep.
Does it
And
go
even
back?
if I,
Yeah, and the next question obviously was, does it go back the other way? Yeah. So if you save it there in regular Salesforce, and wow,
tonight, tonight just disappeared.
yeah, that's cool.
So I've got that all synced out. And, it just makes sense for a real activity to be the next step as opposed to just something I typed in last week because it's what I could think of.
Nice. That's a nice, quick little one. We've got another question there, but we might just hold that if you don't mind until the end. Let's have a look at this task from text.
Oh, yes. So another thing, like I'm a kind of inveterate note taker. I take a lot of notes and I put them in Salesforce because I can't remember exactly what's going on with each deal when I got 15 or 20 of them. So within those notes, what I like to do first of all is to be able to see them without a clunky sort of drag action. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to see all the notes right there real quickly with a single click on an expand button? And then I go back through my notes and say, I like to put two caret marks here for to-dos that come out as part of the meeting. But I just thought, wouldn't it be interesting if you could just highlight that, right click, and create a new task right from whatever text you've highlighted? And have it smart enough to say, okay, it's with the same contact that that activity was with, and it's that same opportunity.
Oh, wow.
So real quick, all I've got to do is then jump to save, and I got myself a new task in the system.
Well, straight from those notes that you had on the opportunity. Well,
Yeah.
isn't that, yeah,
I mean, and it's any text because you can, if you've got, and what I really want to say is visit, I can just
yeah,
do that real quickly, right?
yeah.
So it gives you it gives you a great flexibility there to just grab text and turn it into tasks and actually begin to use Salesforce as a task management system.
Wow. Okay, now the last one was about lightning fast performance, and I think we've seen a lot of that already, Larry. Maybe we can just go through that hover again with the cascading pop-ups, just to show how fast
Yeah.
that they remember. There's a half-second delay already set on these, so if it wasn't set to it was set to
Yeah,
one
let me go
second.
back and set it so you see what real fast is. It
Yeah.
can be too fast for people because you're clicking on something and getting it very, very quickly. And then, in this case, I can expand it out to the right, or I can jump to the edge communications in my regular Lightning right there. And then you saw it, that's going to be just as fast as whatever your response time is in your Lightning system. But getting back to the Express console, when I go click, is less than half a second.
Yeah. Yeah. That is cool. Wow. So, like, what have we got left for those sales reps to complain about, Larry? It's ticking a lot of the boxes, isn't it? Like,
I
I know,
hope so.
I know they're good at complaining about, oh, they complain about this and that. There's all sorts of excuses about why they're not making their quota or not making, all of their sales for the month, and it's Salesforce and it's this and it's that and it's everything else. And I see that we're just taking away another excuse, aren't we? Like we really are making it easier for them.
Yeah, and one of the main reasons is, or criticisms is, you're not doing enough prospecting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I've got a prospecting field up here that lets you take a look, and this is all the prospects that the system assigns to you, right? Either through campaigns or you can sign them up yourself, and it's both leads and contacts in a single screen.
All right, so we're not going
And
to
this,
get into that argument about whether or not they use leads as prospects or
yeah,
contacts.
yeah,
If
whatever you want, right?
Yeah, so if you go straight to contacts and you ignore leads altogether, you can still use this. That's cool. Yeah.
And it just in one screen, it gives you real quick, who are they, title count, what campaign did the lead come from? And then what I've done is given the last three activities that went on with that particular contact with a nice little date and the title of the subject of the activity, again, which is hoverable here. But you can, in real quick, you can get a view of, how long has it been? Wow, I left this for months here, and then I'm calling them a bunch lately. And if I want to look at my whole history that goes beyond the first three activities, I can see it here. And this is an important guy because it looks like I've got him as a next step for two different opportunities. So this is somebody I better get a hold of,
Mm,
right? So this
mm.
just gives you a real quick, easy view of everyone who is your prospect that you can then narrow down and say, okay, I remember spring 24 was a fairly important one. And then, do I have any of those in there that are just hot? No hot ones. So the best I'm doing out of that campaign is interested. So maybe I better get a hold of that person as well.
And you've
So it
got
gives you
you
that
yeah,
real
that's
quick.
that's really good. And you've got some other views there as well. If we just quickly got a couple of minutes, we can have a look at those. So that
Yeah,
was prospecting, forecasting.
that was Yeah, the one that managers will love is this forecasting view because it expands the pipeline out beyond the forecast. And again, you get that same ability to sort based on this, and it gives you your totals down here. What's your gross, your probability weighted, and what does that turn into in terms of attainment? But it adds a commit field, a stage, to see where it is, what the forecast category is, and the next step, which again is always hoverable here. But where this gets really interesting just for management You can sit down with a rep looking at this field, and you can narrow in on a rep by just saying, oh, I just want to talk to Joe Sharp. I'm not sure I've got opportunities yet assigned to them. But anyone who is set up in a role as a direct report for you, you would have on this list right here, and you can zero in on a particular rep or combination of reps. And then say, okay, let's talk about Edge Emergency Generator. Let's take a look at what's happened lately. Now you just can't do that with a spreadsheet, right? You can't dig
No.
in deal from a grid view and find out what's been going on. And this facilitates a whole different level of conversation.
Yeah, great little tool for the manager to be able to see exactly where they are and how they fit the forecast. Yeah, I can see that one being huge use. And there's a couple of other views there. Just
Yeah, the
conscious of,
activity view that we've
we saw
seen.
that one. Yeah, yeah.
But a new one that I'm working on, and this is to the question about configurability. This is where I'm frankly spending a lot of money on a custom grid here, so that the admin can pick which fields occur in the account view. And you can see I've chosen these three, but if I want account description in here, I think I've got to move one out, and then if I want to move the description in, that'll save. And then when I go back to the Express console, and I think I probably need to just refresh this for that to happen. And that's not, admin isn't going to be doing that all that often. But we go back to the account view, and now you've got a description in there. So we're beginning to get more flexible in terms of the layout and the field selection for the app. And what we're doing is we're going to you know, quality assure and make this work nicely in this new account view, and then spread it throughout the app to wherever there's a grid view. And this account view is for those accounts. And there is a lot of financial services out there that don't use opportunities. They just have a rep has a set territory of accounts. So that lets you assign accounts here and see them in that same, breakout kind of view where you can see all of the activities that have gone on with the account, who the key contacts are. Everything's hoverable in the same way it was. But you can operate if you don't use opportunities.
All right, we just got to say goodbye to Ben there. Ben's got to jump off. But yes, Ben, we will send you the recording. Everybody will get a copy of the recording, everybody who's registered.
Yeah. Thanks, Ben. And I guess
Okay.
the last piece here is there's a really good user guide. I've spent a lot of time, 3 weekends, 2 days each, in particular, documenting exactly how the application works, right down to different views, different screenshots.
Oh, well, and
So
this is all inside the application as well. So it's all inside
yeah,
Salesforce.
I jumped to it a little too fast there.
Yep,
It's it's up here in this gearbox. This is the sorry, no,
in
in
the
the
question.
help,
Yeah.
the user guide, right?
Because there's
And
nothing
so,
worse than having that outside of Salesforce and then there's another login or something like that. So it's all contained within. That's nice. Yep.
and
Screenshots
there's
that
even
show exactly. Yeah.
there's a single page here on all of the shortcuts. Like if you hover on something, what do you get? If you click on something, what do you get? If you right click in certain places, what do you get? And then what can you do in terms of setting up preferences? So there's a nice little shortcut summary here as well.
Nice. Nice. Okay, Larry, we've got a question from, let's have a look. We've still got, okay, so this was
Mary or
from,
Namdi.
yes. So on the stage history component, oh yeah, we answered that. Yeah. There was another one
Yeah.
after that. Mary. Yeah, we answered Mary's question. Okay, if there are automations configured on the record changes, oh, okay. And the date change, does that trigger? Yeah, okay. So when you've done a drag and drop on one of those tasks and it's going to
Mhm.
automatically change the date, it could potentially trigger an automation, couldn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So this we're storing back to Salesforce. So
Yeah,
there's nothing in between. So
yep.
if it triggers an automation, absolutely, that would still work.
And if there was a validation rules around that date field, that prevented it being, I don't know, maybe prevented it moving into a date in the future, then the validation rule would effectively stop the drag and drop, wouldn't it?
I think you'd actually get a pop-up that says, sorry, you can't do that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That makes sense.
One of those little badges that shows up right about here in red or green that
Yeah.
says either something worked or it didn't.
Well, that's right, because it's all underlying everything. It's all just Salesforce, and all we're doing is a different coat of lipstick on the pig, isn't it? Basically,
Very much so.
it's a much brighter pink.
Yeah, yeah. This is a
Or
wrapper, you know, a thin
Exactly.
wrapper.
Yeah, yeah, because like everything underlying here is still Salesforce. Okay. So we've basically what Larry's done here is just done a skin over the top of it that it's surprising that Salesforce hasn't done something like this because Larry, as you showed at the start, their sales console and the service console is pretty similar.
Yes.
It's not a great experience. Like I've seen sales reps use the service console, but boy, once you get a whole bunch of tabs there, like it does really get hard to manage. And you've got
Yeah,
this crappy sort of recently viewed list down the left-hand side there, or whatever your list view is. Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, not a
And when you click on it, it takes, watch how clunky it is in resolution. It's sort of clunk, 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 clunk before
yeah,
it fully
yeah,
renders. And
yeah.
I forget where I was when you have a clunky, there's multiple things going on a screen at once.
And then you get to that second row of tabs, and yeah, that gets kind of awkward as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and if I want the detail on that, it creates another tab. Every time I click on something, it gives me another tab.
Yeah, there
So
we
you end
are.
up,
There we've got the two rows of tabs. Yeah. And even if you just look at the headings on those tabs, you've got one, two, three Burlington's ones. Well, which one is it?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just the whole
Yeah.
tab concept is a breakdown for me. It's and the sales console here that they put together just makes it worse.
I can see myself reading in the news in a couple of years' time about how Salesforce has turned around and bought out Leaping Fox software and Larry's sitting on the beach somewhere with his feet up.
That would be my exit strategy, yes. Well, the nice thing is too, I got to before I spent any money on this, I got to the guy. His name, interesting, it was Kevin Hill, who owned the entire platform. He was the senior director at Salesforce for the entire platform. And it was right when Lightning Web Components had been announced. And I said, hey, would you guys mind if I did a little riff on your user interface? I think there's some things, some interesting things I can do. And he said, oh, absolutely. Knock yourself out. It's exactly why we put the API out there, just to see what kind of creativity we could generate in the marketplace.
Awesome. Oh, well,
They are aware. It's
that,
just that they've got so many clouds that are so locked into standard Lightning. Every time they make a change, it's got to replicate across 8 different major platforms and all of the implications and associated and what do you call it? Related. I change this and this changes and then this doesn't work, right? So they've got their job cut out for them just trying to do small minor changes here. And that's why they came up with LWC is like, then they can throw something in there that's actually very interesting and it interoperates beautifully. Like
yeah,
if I want to add a deal here, I just exit to this is the regular Lightning,
yeah,
your
yeah.
product selection. And so it's very easy to exit straight out to Lightning where I don't need to recreate this form. This is not part of the 20% of functionality that people use 80% of the time. So I just use Lightnings. Fill this out and you create yourself a new opportunity. And then boom, you're right back where you were.
Well, thank you, Larry. And look, this is exactly the point that I'm trying to make through this series of tech demos is that there's some real little diamonds in the Salesforce App Exchange that have taken advantage of features like LWC, and somebody who's got many years in the sales environment and is able to build something like this. And so there are lots of these little niches, but one of the problems is once you go through all the pain, and I know it's quite painful and it's a long-winded process of getting your app through the security checks and so forth and getting it
Oh, God.
listed on their app exchange, um, you can become a little bit lost in a sea of a whole bunch of apps. And that's one of the things that we want to do here, is to be able to highlight, hey, here's a really great app that solves this particular problem, and let's show you the technicalities of how it works, and not hit you with a big salesy sort of pitch. There's room for that later. And so those who have participated in today's webinar, or are viewing the recording, if you've registered, yes, you'll get a call or an email from Larry saying, hey, what did you like, and is there some more information that I can provide you? So yes, there is a sales process at the end of it, but not during it. And that's what we wanted to do. So this is a little bit like rocking up to Dreamforce, and Larry's got a stand there and he can do a quick demo of the software for you, but we've extended that out to the full hour. And Larry, you're just pointing to that final URL here, leapingfox.com 7 things. And
Yep.
that's a great little video. That it was way too fast. And our session today is basically an expansion on this one. So if you want to see it, or you want to show it to your boss because you want to buy this product, point them to this link here. So leapingfox.com/7 things with the number 7. And Larry goes through those 7 things that we've just covered in the demonstration there. And boy, that's quick. It's about 3.5 minutes from memory, Larry.
Yeah, but three. Actually, I got it down to 3 minutes.
Yeah. And that's awesome. Look, there's also how it works, benefits, features, pricing, all of that stuff is available there as well.
Yeah. Got the whole story here. Benefits, what people are saying about it. And if you'd like to dig in and have a one-on-one conversation, easy way to contact me.
All right. I'd like to say thank you to everybody who's joined us today. Thank you for your questions and your patience. Apologies to those who've got a bit confused with the time scheduling of today. That was a combination of I live in a state where we don't have daylight savings. The state next to me, they do. And of course, we were scheduling this about 6 weeks ago. And during that time, some of those places where we've indicated what the times were, they're now in daylight savings zone times, so they've changed. So yeah, look, it gets a bit messy, and I've always sort of struggled with that, but we've done our best. The big advantage is, yes, it's available as a recording for those who couldn't be with us here right now today. And thank you for your time for those who are. And Larry, any final words from you?
No, hey, just appreciate everybody taking a look today. And if you'd like to take a deeper look, no hard sell. Happy to just have a chat and maybe a little bit more demonstration at your convenience.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming, and goodbye for now. And we'll see you on the next tech demo early in the new year. Okay. Thank you kindly. And I'll get the recording done and sent out to you shortly.